Alex Morse, who's running for Congress, who has already achieved a lot of things as one of the youngest mayors, and definitely the youngest mayor of Holyoke, and a real progressive. So thank you again so much for talking to me now on my show. I interviewed you with my, of course, co-host Matt Taibbi before for Useful Idiots. And welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for the other interview too. It went over really well. We got like a ton of, we just got like a ton of random emails from like people around the country that were listening.
Oh, great.
Which is really cool.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad it worked out. And
even like handwritten notes from some people in the mail, like that they watched it,
Really? Wow. Yeah. What did they say? Like,
just like, oh, I saw you on Useful Idiots and really appreciated the conversation. And here's a check for $20 or $100.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. You're in a very different position right now than you were before. A lot has changed. Congrats on being officially vindicated.
I know, if it makes a headline in the New York Times,
I know,
vindicated, it's
a big deal.
Yeah, that was nice. It was good to see.
Yeah. Can you give, I'm sure you want to focus on the positive and the issues, but can you give just a mini summary of what was revealed by the Intercept in terms of the kind of involvement of Democrats in trying to take you down?
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I get an email from college Democrats telling me I'm uninvited from their events and that I made members of their organization feel uncomfortable. And I couldn't recall a single instance. And I could just recall one conversation that I had with a panelist or a moderator of a panel in which I thanked him and told him I was marching in a parade. And my initial response was very human and very real. Like, hey, like if I made someone feel uncomfortable, then I apologize for that and express my regret and happy to have a conversation about it because I am unaware of anything that would have made someone feel uncomfortable. And then in the days following, come to find out that those very members of college Democrats that purported to be uncomfortable were in fact not uncomfortable and maliciously trying to find me on dating apps or on Instagram to bait me into having conversations that could potentially damage my campaign. And then the Intercept showing screenshots of very like basic, boring, I should say, conversation back and forth about, again, me marching in a parade in North Adams and the Berkshires. And then, one of them being very intentional about starting this, even as early as last October, trying to find me on dating apps and again, try to entrap me. And then with a goal of currying favor with Congressman Neal to secure a job and secure an internship. And then the Intercept struck again. And 2 days later, we find out that it was in fact not the college Democrats that wrote the email to me. It was a lawyer for the Democratic Party. The same Democratic Party whose chairman took me to lunch before I launched my campaign to discourage me from running for office in the first place. I mean, the attorney that wrote this letter is a donor to Congressman Neal with the sole goal of causing the maximum damage to our campaign.
They actually said, like, this will sink his campaign. And they're like, look how I'm totally leading him on, or something ridiculous.
And then we also find out that, their director, their chair were encouraging the college Democrats to delete text messages and emails once they became aware that investigative journalism were actually going to be trying to go to the bottom of the story. And I mean, I will let the people come to their own conclusions, as I said a couple of weeks ago, but I can say with confidence that the people here in the district want to talk about issues. They are just disgusted by these type of political ploys and personal destruction. And it's the reason I got into politics. It's why I'm running. And I think, if anything, it has certainly inspired people to take a closer look at this race. And I think that's why we see a tightening race and more people weighing in right now. Now we have an investigation into the Democratic Party. I mean, over 50 members of the Democratic State Committee have now called for an independent investigation. That how can this party investigate themselves?
Right.
We have the Young Democrats of Massachusetts making their own statement calling for an independent investigation. Bay State Stonewall Democrats, the LGBT arm of the Mass Democratic Party, was inspired to openly endorse my campaign after this happened. And so, again, people are just sick and tired of this like, bullshit, honestly, and just really want to focus on issues.
Yeah. Let's just talk about what feedback you've gotten for not just for this campaign, but also for like refusing to step down, because as we know, and as you said on the Useful Idiots interview, you considered stepping down.
I will say, I mean, we're stronger and more like fired up and invigorated today than we were even a couple of weeks ago. And I think you and I chatted like a few days after this had sort of come to light, and we were still sort of reeling and figuring out a path forward. And that initial weekend was really challenging for me personally and my team. And you're right. I mean, that weekend I thought long and hard about whether or not it was worth it to continue the fight and stay in the race. And And then I realized that this was not just about me, it was about our entire community, about like values that we need to continue fighting for, and making sure like other people, like young people, gay people, single people, like have a right to run for office and have a personal life. And it's really important that we don't bow to that pressure as we so often do as a society. And so I will say, you know, I think they had us where they wanted us that weekend, but we made a choice to fight back because we remember why we got in this race and who we are and what our values are. And when I say we're in a stronger position today than we were 2 weeks ago, I mean, you know, we have had our best stretch of fundraising since we have launched this campaign. We've had over 1,200 people sign up to volunteer. And since we last chatted, I mean, we literally outraised Congressman Neal in the most recent fundraising period, which is remarkable given he's still the top recipient of corporate money in the entire House. And that was just grassroots contributions, 97% under $200 from every corner of this country, fired up about what we're fighting for and what we want to bring to Congress. And I will say here on the ground, like more local elected officials have been inspired to get off the sidelines and endorse our campaign that were originally planning on just being neutral or staying out of the race, that witnessed what happened and just wanted to be vocal about rejecting that kind of politics in our community. And, you know, we're just neck and neck now in the polls, 13% undecided, 6 days to go. We have 2 debates, or we did have 2 debates last week that I thought, I mean, I'm a little biased, but I mean, I think I clearly won both of them.
Yeah.
And they went really well. And hopefully folks that are undecided that were watching them got excited about my message and the message of our campaign. So every day right now is election day. Early voting is happening right now, in-person election on Tuesday. And so we're just super pumped about the final stretch.
Yeah, you seem more lighthearted. I mean, even you're just like, not your energy, so corny, but you just seem like happier and more relieved. And I can imagine because, you know, you were at the front of a manufactured scandal, basically. And how is your family faring in all of this? Like, what was that like for them?
Well, I just spent a couple of days with them the week earlier, and it was really nice to just like chill out with family overnight. And it's always a good reminder to me that, you know, there's so much more to life than just politics and my job and being a candidate. And so when I was going through that really tough weekend, you know, called my dad and, you know, just told him, I was like, I'm just not sure what I'm going to do and whether this is worth it. And like any good dad, he was like, hey, like, I love you. And, you know, you won't be letting me down. Just want you to be happy. And you know, Sunday night I went in the conference room with my team and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And we came out with a statement that I was staying in the race and I would see the congressman at the debate stage next week. And, you know, I woke up to a text message on Monday morning from my dad with a great statement with a heart. And, you know, he was glad that we were still in it. And so, you know, they've been with me. I mean, they're with me no matter what. They're my family. Yeah. And I just think back to my 9 years as mayor and ups and downs and, you know, sometimes having to give them a heads up like, hey, just, you know, this is going to happen tonight. Right. And just want to give you a heads up on this or that. And it's incredibly grounding and humbling. And, you know, my mom passed away a couple of years ago, so I miss her sometimes, but I also think sometimes, well, I'm glad. I mean, that weekend I was glad that she didn't have to endure that because her pain is like, my pain is her pain. And, but she's always with me in spirit.
I know your brother passed away and your mom passed away. Do you think about them often? Like, especially because from what you've said, well, your mom's life, she struggled with mental health issues, you said, and your brother with addiction issues, and that's how he died. And do you think about them often because of not just because who they are to you, but like, right, like when you're talking about issues of healthcare, do you think of them a lot?
Yeah, I think about them all the time, and I talk about them a lot often too. I think it's important. It keeps them alive in a lot of ways, and it just makes it very real too. Like when we talk about a broken healthcare system, like remembering very vividly like the experience of bringing my mom to a facility and them telling us her insurance wasn't covered, or trying to find a detox bed for my brother and not being able to find one, or when he gets out of detox, like where's he supposed to live, and should he focus on recovery or try to find a job, and everything in between. I mean, my brother had been in and out of prison and the challenges of getting a job or housing after having a record. And so I think deeply about them. And our families, it's very real. Addiction, mental illness, you know, struggled with financially over the years. And despite all of those challenges, like we still always come together, and we're small and we're close knit, and we have incredible love for each other. And that's what keeps me going. But I think about them all the time. And of course I wish my mom and my brother were here for the journey.
Yeah. And you have nephews, right? And nieces?
Yeah. So my oldest brother, Doug, that passed away, has a son, Gavin, who's 11 now, and spends a lot of time with my father. And so is there every weekend. It's a great relationship for the both of them. He's like a father to Gavin, my nephew. And then I can't believe this, but my oldest nephew, so my other brother, Matt, has two kids, Lauren, who is 15, and Nate, who just turned 18. And he just cast his first vote ever last week. For me. And so it was really special that he early voted this week and was able to vote for me for the first time. And I was in 7th grade when he was born. So
oh, wow.
It makes me feel old that he's 18 and he's off to college at MCLA in the fall. And yeah, it's great to watch my nieces and nephews get older. We actually, we share memes on Instagram now, and
nice.
they're like actual people and adults now.
Right.
It's fun to be with family, and as they get older, to watch their like personalities and their passions and come to life in a new way.
And did you talk to them about what was happening? Like, how did you, because that's such a charged thing to talk about with like, teenagers, but you also don't want to, like, it's important to talk about that stuff, right? Like, because you want to not be shamed, but it's also like, what are the boundaries of talking to your family or, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, it was interesting. We didn't really talk about it too much. And it's sort of interesting because, my family, we're not a very inherently political family. Like I guess we're political now because of me. Yeah. But we're not like obsessed with social media or on Twitter or right. all that kind of stuff. And so in a way for me, it's even a nice like test, like limit, like what are just everyday people paying attention to? What are they hearing? What are they listening to? And so like my dad, he works every day. So does my brother, my sister-in-law, they go to school. So it's like, hey, what are you hearing? Like, and so when they see things like this, because they know what I've had to endure over the last 9 years, I don't think they give it the credence that, or the credibility that it's real or serious. And they have a lot of belief in my resilience over the years too. So and they're also protected, and so I was sending them the updated articles, and I did give them a heads up that Friday evening that, hey, just want to give you a heads up. This is what's going on, and buckle up for the weekend, and let's get through it.
So was it a real relief when you like saw the article in the Intercept?
It was crazy, and well, that's the thing that's kind of scary too. It was almost as if the truth and the facts didn't matter. I mean, when that happened on Friday night, it was, I know who I am and how I carry myself and the standard I hold myself to and how careful I am over the last 9 years and every aspect of my life. And the fact that essentially anonymous blog post can be posted in a student newspaper and then lifted by every media outlet and then lead to, clickbait and, tweets and calls for me to drop out and resign, so on and so forth. An incredible relief, but it shouldn't have taken that. It shouldn't take that. And it does a disservice, honestly, to the very real trauma and experiences in our society and in our country. But yeah, incredibly grateful because, if not for the Intercept, if not for like investigative journalists there, from Ryan Grimm to Owen Higgins to Dan Boguschwa, who actually did their due diligence and talked to folks and were able to tell the real story. To see messages, that was so disappointing to me. I'm an optimist. I believe in people's humanity and goodness. I always have, despite like all the shit that's always like served my way and in life. And then to literally see messages from someone I've always been like kind and pleasant to, messaging that I'm intentionally leading them on, and then sending a meme of them going to Politico, and like we're going to damage the campaign. And it's just, I guess I don't even know what word to use. It's just sad and a depressing state of affairs as to how broken, how broken some people are in our system and whatnot.
Right. Because you didn't know, who was accusing you exactly of what, I guess. And then when you saw those things, then you realized who the person was. And I see. Yeah.
Well, that was what's so interesting is when we did get wind that, because the story again had been shopped around for a while, and how I was told was like there was some inappropriate communication on Instagram with a college Democrat, and I thought, well, that's odd. I did remember that there was just one conversation with with the student named in the Intercept article, and I remember going back to the conversation and rereading it a few times and like wondering what could have been perceived as being uncomfortable or odd. And then again, like article after article within a week of shedding more light on the motivations it's disappointing. And it not just for me, but for observers and people that are paying attention too. And I get it. I'm in elected office. I'm running for Congress. I'll hopefully be a member of Congress. Like, yeah, I mean, I always am careful, and I hold myself to a high standard, and I treat others with the respect that I expect from other people. But I also want to be able to be human and have conversations, and not worry that every sentence I type or every word that I say is somehow going to be used.
Weaponized against you. Yeah. Right. I guess that's true. Right. So you didn't know at first, for all you knew, it was someone who you like that. And so you were being genuine when you were like, I'm sorry if I made someone feel uncomfortable, but then it turned out like it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was like an actual like trap set for you.
Yeah. And like literally seeing texts of like encouraging those involved to find me on Tinder and try to get me into a conversation.
Really? Yeah.
Or other people involved trying to follow me on Instagram and then initiate a conversation with the hope that they would somehow find something, or get me to say something that could be perceived as inappropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily it failed, and I think it illuminates the challenge here. But I think the problematic nature of this is, I want to make sure this doesn't prevent other good people from entering the arena and getting involved.
And so tell us about some of the most exciting endorsements that you've gotten recently.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Well, yesterday morning I was endorsed by Carmen Yulín, who is the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, who has really taken on Trump after his administration failed to provide the help to Puerto Ricans on the island after Hurricane Maria. And so she endorsed her. Yes, she was also the co-chair of Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. And then really exciting yesterday was getting endorsed by AOC's Courage to Change PAC, which is a really big deal for a campaign like ours, for her and her PAC to go and challenge one of the most powerful Democrats in Washington. And so grateful. I had the opportunity to chat with the Congresswoman on Saturday for the first time, and it was such an honor to speak with her and thank her for her run, her victory, her leadership, the way that she just inspires me personally and so many people in my life. Thanking her for her speech on the floor in response to Congressman Yoho's remarks on behalf of every woman in my life that was inspired and uplifted by her speech. And also just talking about the central argument about power, that she went up against this in 2018, that people kept making this argument that people in the district would be losing power. And in fact, like Joe Crowley, Congressman Neal is in fact abusing his power that he has on behalf of corporations and special interests. And so I was so excited to get that endorsement yesterday. It certainly will help propel us over the final stretch. And I mean, I couldn't be more excited about the prospect of going to Washington and working alongside her on so many important issues.
And what are some of the biggest differences between you and Congressman Neal?
Let's see, how long do you have?
I know, yeah.
Well, a number of issues. And I say, even if you don't live in Western Mass, and I imagine, and I will say, I was like so impressed. I was like, how many people in the district are going to be like listening to the interview we had a couple of weeks ago? And you'd be surprised, like people coming up to me, I watched the interview.
Oh, great.
Which I thought was really exciting. But I mean, this is a race, again, and I would just repeat, that has implications well beyond Western Massachusetts. This guy is the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. He's one of the most corrupt Democrats in Congress, the top recipient of corporate money. He's opposed to Medicare for all. He's the only member of Congress in Massachusetts that opposes the Green New Deal. He still supports the Hyde Amendment and still sees abortion through a lens of morality, not as an issue of healthcare in our community. He's helped perpetuate a system of mass incarceration and continues to oppose legalization and perpetuating the war on drugs on communities of color in our communities, and even opposes a wealth tax. And so when I think about a potential Biden administration, I worry about a President Biden working and having a Chairman Neal in the Ways and Means Committee, because we will not get any transformative pieces of legislation through Congress as long as Richie Neal is the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And then just for people here in the district, yes, Neal has this power, but you would never know it when you look at outcomes and talk to everyday people here in Western Massachusetts. And this is a guy that just hasn't had a town hall in over 3 years. I mean, people are just desperate and hungry for visible, accessible, accountable leadership, and Congressman Neal is just nowhere to be found.
And anything that you wish you've wanted to talk about that no one's asked you about?
Oh, well, I've been talking about a lot more than I thought I would the last couple of weeks.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't know.
I have more questions, but I always wonder if I'm always curious if people are like, God, why isn't anyone asking me about A, B, C, whatever? What about, okay, so you're Jewish, right?
Yeah, I'm Jewish. I'm not like, my mom and my grandma, like I'm like a real Jew, right? You get it from your mom's side. And, but I'm not like religious by any means.
Right. Me neither. Like, I identify, but I'm very cold. I grew up in New York City on the Upper West Side. I'm like out of a Woody Allen movie, and I call myself a Bernie Sanders Jew. Yeah. Like, he's very Jewish, but he's not religious. And that's a very Jewish thing to do. We can have a whole chat about that. But the reason I know you're Jewish is because when I was Googling you before our interview with Useful Idiots, it like the Times of Israel and all these, and Haaretz, they were like, Jewish congressional candidate, like, caught in scandal. It was just like randomly just talking about the fact that you were Jewish. But I thought it was going to be about that. It wasn't. They just, I guess. So how do you do you identify as Jewish? Were you bar mitzvah? I mean, I wasn't bar mitzvah. Like what?
No, I wasn't bar mitzvah either. My brother.
How did they even know? Oh, she was. Okay, yeah.
Like my mom and my aunt went to Hebrew school. I'm not sure why, and I'm grateful to my parents that we didn't like do organized religion. Like, they taught me right from wrong in just a very human way. Like we didn't go to synagogue or church to learn that. But yeah, my mom and my grandma were always incredibly proud of identifying as Jewish. I don't see it as a religion. I see it as part of my identity and who I am. And I also think it provides an opportunity for me to go to Congress and be a millennial Jew. You know, that also was clear about like not using my identity as a Jew to advance like the violation of Palestinian human rights and fight for the freedom of Israelis and the freedom and peace of the Palestinian people. And they shouldn't be exclusive choices in our country and in our world. So, so I think my first experience around so many Jewish people was when I went to college. I mean, when I went to Brown, I was like, because a lot of Jews had moved out of Holyoke over the years and like into the suburbs. And then, going to Brown, I was like, okay. Yeah.
Where I went to Wesleyan, so I have a similar.
Oh, sweet. Thing. Yeah, I visited Wesleyan. Yeah, and just like a lot of gay Jews. I mean, it's just like, it's just a very Jewish experience.
Yeah. Where are your parents from, by the way? Where'd they grow up?
So my mom was actually born in Oceanside, Long Island, and then when she was 2, moved to Holyoke. And so she was essentially in Holyoke her entire life. And my dad grew up in Holyoke as well. Both raised by single moms, and they met as teenagers in a public housing project. And,
oh, right. You told me that. Yeah, I remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was really young when she got pregnant with Doug. And then my dad, he still works at the same meat company in Springfield that he's been at for 34 years. And just so grateful to my parents and the sacrifices that they put themselves through for me to be here. And I know when I went to Brown and I was the first in my family to go, like I always wanted to make sure my parents knew like how grateful I was to them, because sometimes families feel this like inferiority complex, like do we fit in, because there was so much privilege at places like that, and I always wanted to make it a point, and it became a point too, because I remember being so grateful because so many of my friends and classmates like avoided their family in their hometown at like all costs, and like how lucky I was to be able to go back home and have a family that loved me and vice versa, that hometown that always welcomed me back. And I just always felt like incredibly grateful for that, and just real. I mean, I met so many people in college and throughout life who have just such transactional experiences with their family. And I remember, you think it's kind of cheesy at the time, but I got to call my mom tonight. And it's like, I mean, obviously today, I wish I could still be able to do that, but I'm grateful that even when I was in college, even as mayor, every morning we would have a conversation, and those are experiences and memories that you never get back.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And anything else you want to make sure we mention or?
Let's see. I wouldn't be a good candidate if I didn't encourage people to help us out in the
Right.
final stretch and, join the campaign, chip in what you can, sign up to Phone Bank for us and help us get out the vote. You can go to alexmorseforcongress.com. It's Morse like the Morse code.
Right. Is your dad Catholic?
More Christian, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Then I could have said you were a cashew. That's what it's called when you're half Catholic, half Jewish.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah. Cashew. Then there's pizza bagel. It's Italian Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in New York City, so lots of different combos.
Italian Jewish sounds good, actually.
Yeah. And then I made up a thing. It's called potato famine latke. That's when you're Irish Jewish.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in there a little bit because, because I can pass. I mean, the red hair. So my dad has some like Irish English roots.
Yeah.
Which goes well in Holyoke because we used to be nicknamed Ireland Parish before we were called Holyoke because so many Irish immigrants came after the potato famine to work in the paper mills here in the city.
Right, Paper City, right? That's what Holyoke was called. And I didn't know that you won by one. How much did you win your mayoral race by?
Well, my first election was a preliminary, so there were 4 of us running, and then the top 2 vote getters advanced to the general. And I only won my first election by 1 vote. So,
wow.
And that was a preliminary. I came in first, the mayor came in second, and so we both advanced to the general.
Got it.
But I always tell people, like, I won my first election by 1 vote. Every vote matters.
Yeah.
I will never forget that. It almost never happens. So.
Yeah. That's great. And glad I see Jamal Bowman is endorsing you and did some exciting.
Jamal Bowman back on board more than ever. Hope to have a few more exciting endorsements in the days to come. And we want to finish strong and trying to get a little bit of sleep when I can.
Yeah, seriously. Well, Markey, I think has Markey endorsed yet? Got to get him.
No, he's focused on his own He's in a tight re-election battle.
I know, yeah.
Himself.
I know. Do you feel I assume you prefer Markey to Kennedy, right?
Well, we share a lot of the same values, a lot of the same endorsing organizations, and I'm going to sound like I'm really going to sound like a politician and say I'm focused on my own race, and I wish them both well.
Do you feel conflicted by your shared gingered identity that you share with Joe Kennedy?
Gingers are underrepresented in Washington.
I said that today on Useful Idiots. I was joking with Matt. I was like, why doesn't the only thing that he could pretend to Kennedy could pretend to play identity politics with would be the ginger hair.
That's right, the ginger caucus.
Yeah, seriously.
But well, obviously, I support people's right to have a choice, and I don't think incumbents should be guaranteed to not have challengers. So I certainly support anyone's decision to run, whether they're a Kennedy or not. And I like both Joe and Ed Markey, and would work with either of them. And I'll let the people of the state decide who they want to represent. Wow,
very authentic, not at all politically crafted message. I'm just kidding. You are authentic.
I know. It was actually the first time I said it that way, but I should start saying it that way.
That you like both of them?
Yeah, it is kind of political, and I try not to sound like a politician. But
no, but you got to play your cards. I'm telling you though, you if I want Markey to win, but if Kennedy does win, you guys should go on a ginger tour together.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Anyway, any last words? You said where to go to vote or to find out more info. Mm-hmm. And well, thank you so much for doing what you do. And I'm glad that you're getting so much support and that people are inspired by you. And you're very exciting.
No, well, thank you. And I hope we get the chance to talk a lot more after next Tuesday. So.
Yes, either way. Come back either way. Yeah.